1 year ago from today, I received an email from Michael Hastings, and in that email it talked about how the FBI was after him and for his close friends and associates to be on the lookout for them as well. When I got that email, it was kind of odd because Mike never really emailed me back or sent me emails like that. It was always like, hey, how you doing? So I kind of got a red flag. It felt weird. Hours later, I get a call that night, and come to find out, Mike's car blew up and he was dead.
Meantime, there are questions multiplying today about the mysterious death of award-winning journalist Michael Hastings.
Now, there's many speculations behind the death of Michael Hastings, but the way Mike was, he was on to so many hot stories at once that it was kind of hard to find out what it was at the time that he was on to. Because at the end of the email, it says, I'm on to a big story. I'm going to go underground for a little while, basically, and, hopefully I see you guys soon. Well, here we are now. It's 2014, and it's a year later. And in 2012, Mike wrote a story for Rolling Stone, The Last Prisoner of War, about Bergdahl. And in the article, he's talking about a soldier who's disillusioned, who is disgusted with America, and walks off of his base. But no one pays any attention in this article whatsoever. Well, come to find out, after numerous FOIA requests from 2 different investigative journalists out of LA, we now know that indeed the FBI had been investigating Michael Hastings for a year up to his death. They had bugged him and been tracking him. So why are they lying? In Michael's article, it says that the soldiers were given non-disclosures to sign and were not allowed to talk about it. So what Michael did was he went to Haley, Idaho. He spoke with Bob Bergdahl, Bo's father, and what Bob did was show Michael some emails that he had been getting from his son in Afghanistan just maybe a month or so after being there. Said that he thought the Army was disgusting, that this was a crappy war, and that if things didn't, get interesting, he would just walk away. And now we know that that's what happened. Michael knew when he wrote this back in 2012 that this would be a big story and could be the end of the Afghanistan war if the government used Bo as a pawn, so to say.
I think this is the most significant and undercovered story about the war in Afghanistan from an American perspective. It's a story about the only prisoner of war who's left in these 2 wars. First, the government angle. It was unprecedented, the sort of wall of silence they tried to create over the Bergdahl case. They made everybody in the brigade sign a non-disclosure agreement not to talk about Bergdahl.
So now we know that Mike went and spoke to Bob Bergdahl, and he also went to Afghanistan and spoke to soldiers from Bo's unit while they were in Afghanistan. So once we got that FBI document back from the FOIA request, it said that the reason that Michael was being investigated was due to what the FBI considered controversial journalism. Now, whatever that means, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows what controversial journalism is. If journalism isn't controversial, then what's the point? Here we are a year later, and I sure think that this was more than just an accident. A car doesn't just explode and then crash. It's very odd. Michael wasn't one of those guys who drove around recklessly. All this information we're hearing from people only leads down one way, and that this was a setup by the government to silence Hastings. And that's the only possible outcome I can see in the situation. All I can say now is that we lost a great reporter, a journalist, and I lost a friend.
Globalists have controlled the mainstream media for a long time, but now they're expanding, making the weaponization even more vicious and deceptive. All the major networks are state-run.
We are partnering this year with the NFL.
The NFL has become a political weapon against the Second Amendment and pushes Obamacare. MSNBC tells us that our children belong to the state.
We have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities.
The brainwashing media machine has been turned up on high, and it's time for humanity to double down on the true people's media and strike back against the tyrants that are destroying our civilization with their lies and fraud. We are the resistance. You are the resistance. You are the InfoWar. It is more important than ever to realize that we are not the alternative media. We are the true media. The establishment dinosaur press is dying.
We are in an information war, and we are losing that war.
Join us at InfoWarsNews.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Members can share their memberships with up to 11 people. By subscribing, you will literally be buying war bonds in the InfoWar to expand our operation in the face of the tyrants. Join us at PrisonPlanet.tv.